Hi, I'm John Calarco, Holistic Health and Performance Coach. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to stretch your hip flexor muscles with the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. If you spend a lot of time sitting, feel like you have tension in your hip on the front side here, or you feel like your pelvis is excessively tilted forward and your butt is kind of sticking up in the air, or even if you have lower back pain or hip pain and you want to increase the flexibility and mobility of your hips to correct your lower body posture and begin to eliminate any lower back pain, then this exercise is for you. The primary two hip flexor muscles here on the front side of the body are the psoas and the iliacus muscle, which combine to form the iliopsoas muscle. Then the rectus femoris muscle, which is the middle muscle of the quad there on the front side, and the sartorius and pectineus also contribute to hip flexion, which is flexing the hip up just like that. The psoas muscle is a particularly important muscle because it originates at the lumbar spine and goes through your body and attaches to the lower vertebrae and then comes down and attaches here on the front of the hip. So it can be an important muscle to address when you have any low back pain or tension. So to set up for the half kneeling hip flexor stretch, we're going to get into a half kneeling position here. We're going to focus on getting the front foot or this top leg aligned with our shoulder so we have a good base. Then we're going to focus on stacking the knee, hip, and shoulder all on top of one another and getting nice and tall in this neutral spine position. Then from here, we're going to perform the movement. We're going to execute by focusing on extending the hip by contracting the glute and coming forward till we feel that stretch here on the front of the hip in the hip flexor muscles. Then we're going to return to the start position. Exhale as you go forward and inhale as you come back. Again, feel that glute contraction so the pelvis stays here in neutral and only go far as forward as you can keep that neutral pelvis and glute contraction to get that stretch in the hip flexors. That's the first portion of the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. Then we're going to perform the same exact hip extension, again, making sure that pelvis is in a neutral position, using the glute to extend the hip, bring on that hip flexor stretch. Then we're going to reach the arm up overhead, get more of a stretch in the psoas above the pelvis again as it runs through the body into that lower abdomen, lower spine. Once we do that, we're going to go ahead and again contract the glute, get to that hip flexor stretch, arm is up. Then we're going to exhale and rotate so we can bring on a rotational stretch in that full hip flexor muscle. We'll return to the start position and repeat. Exhale, come forward until you can't go forward anymore. Inhale a little bit and then exhale again through that nose. Rotating and reaching to that ceiling. I'll show you one more rep on this one. Then we're going to finish the series by now doing a side bend. So same thing, extend the hip by contracting the glute, pelvis is in neutral again, reach to that ceiling, and then exhale, side bend, feel that stretch, come up to the lower abdomen, again where that psoas runs through the body above the pelvis. All right, so performing those three positions on the half kneeling hip flexor stretch is going to get you a full 3D stretch on the hip flexors where we're stretching it in a straightforward back position, rotational position, and lateral plane of motion. So that's how to complete the full hip flexor stretch series. Where you're going to feel the exercise here, again, is through the hip flexor muscles. You're going to feel that stretch on the front of the hip. And again, when we do the arm reaches overhead, rotations and side bends, you'll feel that hip flexor muscle as it runs through the body. Also, we want to make sure we feel that glute contracting, and we do not want to go too far forward to the point where we lose the glute contraction and we have, again, that butt kind of sticking up in the air and the pelvis tilted forward excessively. That's the position we want to avoid here and the postural dysfunction that we want to correct by practicing this exercise. It's very common to see people going really far forward on this exercise and trying to get a big stretch in the hip, but that's actually really just kind of pulling on the joint capsule. It's not getting us that full stretch on the hip flexor muscle. So make sure that you keep that pelvis tucked only come as far forward as it stays tucked and the glute stays on, you only have about 15 degrees of hip extension. So we're not going to go very far to do this exercise properly. So it's not about how far you go, but it's more about the positioning that your pelvis and your glute allow you to stay in throughout the exercise. So make sure to avoid those common mistakes. For sets and reps on this, we're going to focus on doing 1 to 2 sets of about 10 reps. Generally, I'll do 4 reps just going forward and back without the arm up, and then 3 reps with the arm reaching to the ceiling and rotating. If you want to do 4 of each, then that's 12 reps. That works great as well. The best times to practice this exercise are going to be one, of course, before you train. It's a great way to open up the hip flexors and begin to condition the body to be in that optimal alignment and lower body posture. Then another great time to practice it is if you're sitting for long periods of time. Jump up, maybe if you're sitting for 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, you're doing a lot of work, you're really focused on a project. Come into the half kneeling position when you're taking your break or whatever it is. Go through a set of 10, 12 reps. It's a great way to restore, open up those hip muscles, get those glute muscles firing a little bit more as they fall asleep as we sit, and get that pelvis back into a nice neutral position. Again, make sure to do both sides. And it's really your antidote to sitting, you can think of it as. Whenever you sit for long periods of time, think about some way to incorporate this exercise into your routine there. So if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button, drop me a comment below, and let me know if you have any questions. Then make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. I have more videos coming your way, especially on improving your flexibility, your mobility, stretching your hips, and your entire lower body. This is actually one of the exercises in a series of exercises to open up your hip flexors fully and to optimize your lower body flexibility and mobility. So again, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can get notified as I upload those new videos, and I'll see you there. Unleash your power, achieve your potential.